Sahana vavatu, Sahanau punaktu, Sahaviryam karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The word karma, right, it has two definitions. The first is action, and the second is the result of action. So when we do an action, that's called karma. So I can say to you, I did karma and I got karma back. It's like confusing. Well, what I really meant was I did an action and I got the result of that action back. And this action is always going to be determined by, right, what is your intention behind the action, of course. And that intention will kind of affect your karma, right, that you receive. Now, with people, right, we have an orientation that we come with. And those orientations kind of attract us to people with other similar orientations. This is just how we are. So if you kind of speak to someone and you say, you get to know them, then, you kind of discover that they are a person with similar interests, and then you look at their life and you say, well, how did you become so successful, right? What did you do? And they said, well, I did karma. I did actions and, with a good intention. And now I'm enjoying or reaping the results of those actions. So in the West, we say, right, what you sow is what you reap. And so, your whole life is like this. It's really, you're given a potential. My teacher Nima says, you're given infinite possibilities and you have the capacity to collapse them at any moment. Like right now, your life can be really anything you want. And to receive that, right, I have to start taking actions in the right trajectory that's going to likely get me there, that kind of life that I seek. Now, suppose you do put actions, wise actions, into the field, and you get great friends and great, great job and great family and so on. But now, suppose your child, right? They also have to go to school. So things that happen to your child also becomes the child's stuff. It becomes their life, but it also, because they're connected to you, you also have to share that, right? You have to share whatever things that your child goes through. And with at work even, right? You come, for example, motivated and you want to really do your work. And then you find a colleague who's giving you a hard time. And it's like, oh, well, this is an interesting situation. So I have to now share, right, my life with this. I have to find something in between. I have to find a common ground between us. And so you're sharing one space, right? One office. And within the office, every person gets a certain cubicle, and it gets a certain job occupation, has a certain work that's assigned to them. And every person has a different response to what they are given. So one person can I saw these funny videos they had a long time ago at work when they, those CCTV cameras, and someone gets so angry, they just, knock the monitor off, they throw the monitor away, and they just punch the photocopier, right? So now everyone else has to kind of share that chaos, and then you go home and you tell your spouse and your kids what happened. And so they also now share a little bit of that. So when it comes to a larger sharing, this is exactly the same. So someone said in the class, I think yesterday, that even if you come with fantastic qualities and you have a home and you have clean environment and you have people who care for you, then because this place is a meeting place, this earth really, Bhuloka, is just a meeting place. And what kind of a meeting place? A place where millions and millions of personalities have been born and will be born and are born right now. And every personality has a goal in life. They have, aspirations. They have, they have dreams to fulfill. And you also have a dream to fulfill. So you have two people, just two, never mind 8 billion, who cross paths. So you get a little bit of their life, they get a little bit of your life, and then you times that by 8 billion. And what do you have? You have the world that you're living in right now. Extremely complex. Something happens in USA, and that spills to the world. And so we have protests like in Israel and Gaza right now. And so that, we have constant protests. And so what's happening over there, the entire world gets to share one way or the other. But even within your own space, within your own family, suppose your family has a certain reaction towards the war. And then you happen to be in your family and you have another reaction that's slightly different from your family's, right? And so like this, because everyone gets to intersect with everything else in this connected world today, we all have to sort of share, not sort of, but we actually do share everyone else's, right, comings and goings, everyone else's path, and you just have to find a way to make the best of your life, despite being, given different, possibilities by other people's aspirations. So this sharing is absolutely the case, right? Like the person that you are now, it's not just because of the things that you've done before, but it's of the people that have influenced you, and people have influenced them, and many, many generations have influenced them. So it's a passing on. I think I came with, I thought about this the other day, and everyone who's born, you come connected at least with two people, your parents, at least with two people. But if you think about your parents, they know people, they know others who have sculpted your parents. So when you get born, your parents sculpt you, but there are many people who sculpted your parents. So you indirectly get sculpted according to the people that your parents knew, who you will never meet, and the line goes much deeper than that. You understand? So the person that you are now, it's such a conglomeration of so many interactions and crossing of paths that you have experienced with people and people who knew the people that you know. So, for example, suppose you live in a city like Delhi, and Delhi has smog, right? And so now in Delhi, you have a person who doesn't have enough money to buy an air purifier. And then you have a person who has money to afford a top-class air conditioner that's going to purify the house. So they both share smog, or a level of air pollution, suppose. But within that same city, the person's individual karma will also affect what kind of experience they have relative to the environment that they share. So not only is there a collective karma at the level of the individual, at the level of the family, at the level of your suburb, at the level of the nation, at the level of the country, at the level of the continent, at the level of the entire world. So all of this is intersecting today. And this is why wherever you go nowadays, more or less, you basically know, oh, it's the same old. I already know this. There's nothing new today because everyone's intersecting. But if you go back 200 years ago, you come as a Westerner to India, you're shocked, right? But today, it's just gone. It's just basically America in India. India is in Australia. It's all the same, because as more and more people get born, more intersections get crossed, and more intersections get crossed, everyone is part of that, and so everyone becomes more or less right? Sharing each other's stuff. And in that, what's most important is what do I do about my own individual trajectory, my own individual path. Yes, I may be bogged down by family obligations, by job, by a salary that doesn't really pay well or whatever. I may be bogged down by some people that I love who are giving me a hard time. I may be bogged down by all of that. And tell me, who doesn't have a life? Who has a perfect life? Like a perfect life, perfect relationships, perfect spouse, perfect job, perfect knowledge, perfect memory. Can't find one person. So we need to release, first of all, this idea of living a perfect life. This is a romantic idea that things are supposed to go really well and nothing's supposed to go wrong, and I'm supposed to have the perfect patience and the perfect attitude and the perfect environment and the perfect knowledge. This is not right proper thinking. So karma is really your personal journey, and the question is, what do I do with my personal karma that I'm being given, right? And you're given, of course, your free will, and free will, you can always collapse a new possibility, a possibility that gives you a much nicer, a cleaner home. For example, in India here we have the caste system, right? Of course, more or less it's sort of diffused, but there's a certain reality to it. For example, a brahmana will have certain standards and they will have certain orientations. But then you take a shudra, a laborer, right? And they will have certain orientations also. Right? Now, based on what do they define this caste system? They define it based on birth, right? The kind of in what family you're born in, but they also define it based on the personality that you have. For example, a Shudra is more or less oriented for more like handwork, right? Or a Brahmana is like more, entertaining laws and thinking about reality and thinking about, how do I improve something? Likes to work with numbers and data. So does this mean because you're born in a certain family, because that's your karma, right? That's where you're at. Does this mean that you're set for life like that? No. For example, I was not born as a brahmana. Even if I was in India, I was not born as a brahmana. I was born in a middle class family who just said basically just work hard. It was really money oriented. So that is basically, what do they call it after Shudra? Not Kshatriya, Vaishya. So basically it's a Vaishya family. And then I recognized, well, this is fine, but there is a orientation to move above this. So now the question is, suppose two Vaishyas are born, and one of them takes on and continues the business. They just take on the business for the rest of their life. You have people like Warren Buffett, who is a billionaire. And I always ask myself, why do you need $1 more billion? Why do you need $1 more million? You're like 90 years old. How is 1 billion going to help you? So, but just to come with that question requires what we call Ishvara Nugraha, right? Ishvara's grace. To intercept a thought, even though you're good at making money or good at being a lawyer, it requires something more than just free will to bless you with the question, what of all of this? Where is all of this going? And is there a deeper purpose to living than just, right, being a great, a social status person? And so when that question intercepts, which we call Ishvara's grace, right, that's your punyam. That is karma, that's punyam. And that punyam, rajas punyam, transfers into this kind of thinking. And so in your laborer or, right, hard-working job, you simply ask the question, is there more than all of this? And this question leads to the next question, and what's the nature of the universe? And many people do ask this question, but how many follow up? So you need more punyam to follow up onto that first question. My teacher says you need to do things constantly to replenish your punyam. Because we often say, oh, yeah, I got punyam. And when someone gets born in a lovely family, you think they stay like that forever? No, they go. If they're not careful, it goes downhill. So in other words, one needs to keep on doing karmas to keep on getting right, punyam in their life so that they can keep on reaping their results. So it's not like a sense of resting. It's not, oh, I'm so lucky right now. There's a statement that says, every time you're happy, you exhaust your punya karma. That means less chance for happiness in the future. Every time you're unhappy, you exhaust your papam. So that's actually better, right? Right? Because in other words, I might as well just exhaust my papam now so there's less suffering in the future, right? So in other words, what I have to do is I have to keep on, right, doing things in this world that are, keeping with the rules of the game, so that I keep on receiving new punyam, and so that I can, be grounded in the world of attention. Everyone wants my attention, and so I have to keep on being grounded in that world, so that people don't kind of steal me into their little, stories. And for that requires your participation, your contribution in the world. And the contribution with the world, if it's out of alignment with Ishvara's laws, then that simply is not going to give me that protection. So when something does occur, then I'm not going to have that, that strength to be strong in that very moment. So this means there's no rest in one sense. There's no rest, from, it's like, oh, I'm so happy, happy, happy. Well, those kids, who are 20, what happens, when they're like getting into a lot of drugs and, just drinking a lot of parties. By the time one's 30 years old, so much punyam has been exhausted that the person is now, going through a very hard time of recovery. You see? So in other words, it's like nowadays kids just exhaust all of this punyam and there's nothing left. That's why they call, the Buddha says, the path of the middle way, right? Neither too much, neither too little, but somewhere in between, so that I'm always I have enough time to discern what is the right course of action. Is it kind of, is it going a little bit too much? Am I not asking enough, or am I asking too much? Am I not asking enough, or am I asking too much? I have to know that, and that requires viveka. So not only does it require viveka, discernment, but it requires Ishvara's grace. And how do you earn Ishvara's grace? Through? What, do you just get dropped Ishvara's grace from the sky? No. How? That is, you align your actions, your words, speech with Ishvara's order. And who does that? You do. So by your alignment is what gives you Ishvara's grace. By having Ishvara's grace, the orientation and the ease of life becomes a living reality. So it's not about where you're born or how you're born or what you are right now. You're always given a chance to collapse the possibilities in this moment by, as Meena said, aligning with Ishvara's order.
So when we say align with the orders, Ishvara's orders, what does it mean? How do I know what are the orders? And does it mean that if I follow, I'll get the grace by default?
Yeah, so how do you know that you're aligned with the Ishvara's order? We have a nice system, it's called a feedback system. And that's why we need emotions. And so if one's not, nowadays, sometimes a man is told, what is this emotional stuff? This is for weaklings. And so this shuts down it shuts down your only system of letting you know whether you are aligned with Ishvara's order or not. Because if the person has lost their sensitivity, their touch with their emotions, their touch with Ishvara's order, which is specifically made to give you that direction, how aligned am I with what I'm doing right now, then if the person starts to hurt another, they're not going to feel that pain. The more one gets, purifies their mind, it cleans up their inner stuff, it becomes extremely hard to hurt someone, very hard. So that hurt is an indicator that what I've done was not completely right, aligned with Ishvara's order. That guilt, that embarrassment, that shame, is one indicator. Now, this gets a little bit more tricky because what happens is, when we're small, we kind of get told, you shouldn't ask, right? We shouldn't ask. And so we grow up with this orientation. And so when we start to ask or express our desires, express our needs, then we feel guilty. And we say, you see, this is Ishvara's order. This is guilt coming through. Therefore, I'm doing something wrong. You see, so now the person has to kind of look deeper into their orientations and look at the cause. Could this be my own additions or subtractions? And how much is this, really keeping with the order? So one has to look at their stories. What story am I telling myself right now that's letting me feel like this? It requires one to ask the question. Without the question, the inquiry is not even going to start. And if it doesn't start, then it just remains in that mind. And when it remains in the mind, it unconsciously pollutes and dilutes all of this knowledge when it comes in class. And we don't even know it. This is why we have such a strong focus in Vedanta about redefining and re-looking into one's inner compass. How much is my compass keeping with the laws? Are people responding well? Are people, is there a conflict? Is there, am I stepping on someone's toes? All of this requires to be looked into. Otherwise, if one doesn't look at it, it ends up polluting all of this knowledge. And then the person says, it doesn't stick. This Drig Drishya doesn't stick. And then do something. The teaching doesn't work, the teacher doesn't work, whatever. And I said, no, it works very easy and very quickly if the mind is like soil, fertile, for those self-knowledge seeds to be planted and watered by repetition. So cleaning up one's mind is key. And the more the mind gets cleaned up, the easier it is to feel this sensitivity in respect to the environment to which one is interacting with from morning to evening. And this takes time. So this is why, I really actually appreciate when I see someone who's not coming to Vedanta to kind of establish themselves in a trip, in some kind of a bubble, but rather they have that sincerity that's shining through, which you can tell easily, that sincerity that I want to improve my life. And in that statement, which is not said, no one says I want to improve my life, but it comes through the person, because everyone carries a signature, like an aura that shines. And we are very sensitive. We pick that up. You already know this, what this means. You pick that up. And if the person is carrying an undercurrent of resentment, anger, judgment, then you pick that up. Something's not quite right. So the undercurrent that every person carries cannot be ignored when in the presence of someone else. And so through that someone else, we get feedback. There's some things like, I need to work on something. Now this gets even more complex because when someone gives us this feedback, then we say, no, it's their stuff, it's their projection, right? But it's actually our stuff. So again, you have to ask yourself one more question. How much of this is my stuff and how much of this is their projection, right? Because otherwise we always take it black or white. It's their projection, full stop. It's my stuff, full stop. Middle way, in between. And this middle way requires a constant discernment of how much of this is my addition and subtraction and how much is, because everyone is projecting. This is a fact. Everyone is projecting more or less. So therefore, it's deserving so to ask how much is a projection and how much is my own stuff. And what's more, everyone picks things up. So it cannot be entirely their projection. They may not have communicated it in a pleasant way, but they have communicated it nevertheless. So it's up to me now to look behind the words and to ask, what did you really mean behind those words? But of course, they're not going to tell you, because who tells you, right? So you have one more task to do, and again use your Viveka and ask, right? what could be the implied meaning behind what they said? And if I don't know, then I can pray. Then I can say, Ishvara, help me to discover the hidden meaning behind the feedback which I'm receiving. Because in a perfect world, it would be very lovely, right? Someone gives you perfect feedback, exactly what you need to hear to move forward in your life. But it doesn't happen like that in real life, does it? We give statements that are sort of, loaded with our own notions, and in those statements, we also tell the truth. So now the listener has to divide between a falsehood and the truth. So how do we know that we are keeping with Ishvara's laws? It requires inquiry into one's experience in the light of their interactions in the world.
This self-inquiry requires a lot of self-reflection. In the heat of a moment, although you're trying to become a self-critic all the time, how do you know which? You just discussed that you're following Ishvara's order all the time. But you need to gain that wisdom along the line.
Yeah.
And that could take several lifetimes or millions of lifetimes or your present life.
It could take several lifetimes. Not really, because see, we're not actually interested in, several lifetimes, right? Do you really want to sort of, suppose I say to you, you need to wait lifetimes. This is so discouraging, right? So, I don't really believe it's lifetimes. I think it's, it has no practicality or pragmatism. The only practical thing that we can discuss is this life. And I believe totally that one life is enough to attain the highest. No matter whether you're a Shudra or, a Vaishya, no matter what, through hard work, you can absolutely attain, the highest that you're given this body for. Just to be given a body implies you're capable of the highest wisdom. To be given an animal body, then you can ask this question. But to be given a human body instantly qualifies you for having artha, having kama, having dharma, keeping the rules of the game. And amidst all of that, I get nourished in such a way that my mind is qualified enough to, understand the reality. So lifetimes, with that plural, no, lifetime now. Yeah, it does require self-reflection, and this is not for everyone. Vedanta is an active process. It does require a sincere, active, deliberate self-reflection onto oneself, putting the spotlight back onto oneself, rather than putting the spotlight onto other people, right? So you attack your own I sense. The I sense looks at the I sense. You look at your own thinking of how you're thinking, yeah? And this is, of course, the work. And so, Vedanta is, of course, for people like this, with in Tattva Bodha we say adhikari, the one who has already that viveka, that discernment between, what is really longer, more beneficial than this, right? Whatever this is. So we start out very little. We have a toy, and then toys last maybe one day, and then we have boys and girls that lasts 1 month, and then we have, whatever. So it lasts longer and longer and longer. And you say, what lasts a really long time? That's another question. That's this, discernment between what is permanent and what is impermanent. Now, no one starts asking a question, what is the ultimate permanent? But we start off very small, don't we? And why do you start small? What caused you to start small and someone else not? As Mikey said, that's your karma. That's your orientations that you come with from Raj, right? But now you say, well, I didn't come with Raj's orientations, No, just the fact that you're born in a human body, there's no excuse. The highest wisdom is possible, full stop. Right? Really, otherwise it's like every lifetime one can say, yeah, this is so hard. It takes lifetimes to purify one's mind. But this jiva has probably said that so many lifetimes before, only to be born to say that again. So one life, one has to stop this pattern, this silly pattern, and say, no, I want this more than anything. I want wisdom more than anything. Just like that fellow who was pushed down the barrels, who couldn't breathe. The master held his head for maybe too long, a couple of seconds too long. And the only thing he could think of was, I want that breath. Nothing else in that moment, right? I want the highest wisdom, nothing else. And it doesn't matter how old one is, how young one is, age matters not at all. I just spoke to, during this dinner, that in some countries, kids are very mature at a very young age. Nowadays, we have, 30-year-olds who are entitled, still like little children. So, age is very kind of relative. But what really matters is what you are given, right? And what do I use? How do I use that to the maximum best capacities for myself? To analyze other people, it's too much. We even have problems analyzing our own, let alone analyzing the world. So it's a personal journey, very, very personal, as I said yesterday, between you, the teaching, and God, the truth.
You talked about Avaran Shakti. Isn't this tough to Avaran millions and trillions of different species than to let just one, that particular species features active? So when you say Avaran Shakti, that means if
Veiling power
bird has born,
yeah,
the other creatures' features will get
they also get their karma.
Hidden, yeah.
Hidden, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But isn't that easy to just let the features of, let's say, living bird dominate and not to hide other features, the other creatures' features, Avaran?
Avarana Shakti is a power, just like you have a power to, when we play hide and seek, and then you're in that moment, taking the role of the Avarana Shakti, and then I have to, look around and I have to find you, as effort to find you. Avarana Shakti is a Shakti that is there to create differences. It just creates differences. That's all it does. Now, how do you create difference? You have to hide certain information to reveal something else, right? The giraffe is not a dog. A dog is not an elephant. An elephant is not an ant. An ant is not a lizard. So it just kind of hides information to create varieties. So it's, in a sense, a blessing because it creates colors, it creates dance, it creates all sorts of varieties in the world. It creates different personalities. It creates, ability to, express yourself differently. At the same time, it can become a thing that keeps you, bound, right? Bound to, to the world. Now, to remove Avarana Shakti, right, with suppose language, if I say, how do you say, girl in Latin? And some of us will know, right? The girl in Latin is puella, right? Puella. Now, to show you that the word in Latin is puella, what do I have to do? I have to give you the knowledge that, suppose I stop halfway and I say pue. Do you know the word for girl in Latin? Pue. Puel. Now? Puella. Only now. So I have to give you knowledge, right, that has the range of the ignorance to remove that ignorance. I have to give you that knowledge, right, from beginning to the end, which matches the range of the ignorance. So if I stop halfway, then I don't have that full word in my understanding. I have to give you puela. Only now the entire ignorance is removed. Okay? So, now this avarana shakti can hide information. It can also be removed. Now, when it comes to the macrocosm, to the world, it doesn't sort of, hide. It just hides to reveal variety. It's the creative power. We say Maya is the creative power. Because it's creative power, it means it's able to project all knowledge, all power. From all knowledge, all power manifests the whole universe. But you can't just project all knowledge, all power. Otherwise, you have all knowledge, all power. You need to create forms, right? And to create forms, you have to conceal certain information to offer it a certain attribute, right? So just like in a dream, this is a very nice example. In a dream, your mind is, suppose, all knowledge, right? Suppose your mind is all knowledge, all power. And you, the conscious being, are the one in whom this power resides. Okay, so this power has no existence without you, the conscious being. So in the dream, it manifests mountains and rivers and people and walls and birds and creepy crawlies, and manifests the entire ecosystem of animals and human beings and so on. And you kind of touch this and you go, wow, this is hard. It's very hard. I can't go through the wall. And you think this is material. But it's not material, is it? It's just knowledge manifesting as the material. Knowledge manifesting as the material, making it seem like there's something called a piece of wood here. But there's actually no actual material here. It's just intelligence manifesting as this wood. And when it manifests the wood, then we kind of give it a name. Why do we give it a name? So we can differentiate it from something else in this world. So this world, just like the dream, I'm not saying the world is a dream. You have to be careful here, because we often say the world is a dream. No, the world is a manifestation of Ishvara. A dream is a dream. The one that I dream, that's a dream. But we don't call this empirical world a dream. Otherwise, it changes your whole orientation about how you interact with people. Just one single word can kind of break the whole relationship with things. It can convolute things. How so? Well, it's just a dream, Oh, don't worry, it's just a dream. Who cares? It's just a dream. And so it removes the sense of, the sense of responsibility, accountability, because it's just a dream. Therefore, it's a manifestation of Ishvara. And this manifestation of Ishvara is, all knowledge manifesting as materials and the intelligence, which is putting these forms together in such a manner that at every level of assemblage, there's this intelligent putting together. The cells intelligently put together, the atoms put together intelligently to become molecules. The molecules intelligently put themselves together to become a cell. The cell intelligently puts itself together to become a heart. The heart, being put together intelligently, is put on the side. Now let's do the same for the liver. Put the liver aside. Now let's do the same for the brain. Now that we have a heart, brain, liver, spleen, kidneys, let's put them all together intelligently once again to create a functional human, living, sentient being who can ask the question, what's the nature of reality? So at every level of reality, there's nothing but intelligence manifesting as seeming material. We often say, Ishvara is, yes, it is, material. It is also intelligence. But ultimately, Ishvara is nothing but intelligence. So all you're ever experiencing in this world is what? Intelligence manifesting as all of these forms. And this is not a belief. Because you give me a microscope and start looking into the skin. It's like there's no skin now. Start looking into the flesh. It's just atoms. But at every level, what we can see is this intelligent putting together of forms. And this you cannot deny. This is not a belief. You don't have just atoms randomly put themselves together and then create this world. That is just illogical. So therefore, when we come to Vedanta, we don't say this silly stuff like, oh, I'm awareness. Do you actually relate to that? I'm consciousness. It's such a dead statement. Because it's like you're, number one, objectifying consciousness, and number two, so what? But when I say all that is here is Ishvara, I am including the forms, I am including this person who's also a putting together, I'm including all things that I see, all things that I experience. That is not a lie. I literally see it, and I'm including that. And I'm also including the fact that all of those forms, which are put together, the truth of them is only intelligence. The intelligence which puts them together. And the truth of intelligence, in other words, intelligence can never be without the presence of a conscious being. And the truth cannot be unless it enjoys existence. So when I say all that is here is Ishvara, I'm including everything at once and not denying anything. Because the truth is, yes, there are forms. That's not a lie. There are forms. But I also cannot deny that every form is an intelligent putting together. And I also cannot deny that for forms to be intelligently put together, you can't think of knowledge outside a conscious being. Therefore, the truth, I look at the forms, the truth of the form is intelligence, the truth of intelligence is existence awareness. So I don't have to say I'm existence awareness. This is Ishvara. All that is here is Ishvara. The understanding is Ishvara has no existence outside of awareness and outside of existence. You see the difference between I'm awareness versus all that is here is God. All that is here is Ishvara. It changes your orientation completely. It changes the relationship completely. It gives you an airbag, a cushion, an emotional cushion to land on. How are you supposed to land on I am awareness? It's too like over the head. And this is a difference that I love with Swami Dayananda, Nima's teacher, and many, right, with all the respect to other teachers, and most of these other, who's just like, Brahman, 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 everywhere Brahman. It's not an academic teaching. It really does change your orientations and gives you comfort, meaning in life. That this is not a random creation. This is not a creation that has no meaning. It is all intelligence right here, right now. And the reason why we don't see it is because all our lives we've been trained to just look at the forms and talk about the forms, always talking about the beads. So there has to come a time when I start to bring out the thread. The thread, the laws and orders, which are also an intelligent creation, in whom all of these intelligent putting togethers are operating and interacting with a cause-effect relationship in the past, present, and future. The intelligence was there billions of years ago. That intelligence is here right now, and that intelligence will continue being many, many, many cycles from now on. So when the person finally understands that I am not outside this order, I have no existence outside this intelligent order. When the person finally stops or quits this need to have a perfect life, and when they become a contributor, because you are part of the order, you are in this grand scheme of things, then the person has really started to mature. Because it's not just a talk, okay, Ishvara. Your orientations actually change. You actually become a willing contributor because there's only one without a second. I'm only operating in the one, I'm part of the order. So I'm obligated to give back because the order has been given to me since beginningless time. I've only had one relationship. That is with God, with Ishvara. Everyone else comes and goes, comes and goes. Parents come and go, friends come and go, everything, teachers come and go. Only one relationship you've ever had, a true relationship, and that is with this intelligence. That's why you're here now, given this body, one more chance to understand and appreciate this order. So how can I now dismiss that intelligence and say, no, it's just mithya, It's the very savior, it's your very refuge, which is giving you and is still giving you a life that is worthy of living. If I just say that I'm Brahman, then it doesn't induce any devotion. There's no devotion if you say that statement. It's just a dry statement. I'm awareness. So I like Dayananda for this reason and Nima, because they're the only ones who ever brought out, in my experience, this order of Ishvara. And I understood through the years that you live in a much more gentle state, a much more humble state than those who come from schools who just say that all, just Brahman. It's a huge difference in attitude, huge difference in one's orientations, huge difference in one's conduct. You can see it like that. So what I really connect with is the intelligence that's sculpting this body, the intelligence that's sculpting this body. I'm connecting to the intelligence that's sculpting this body, and the truth of that intelligence is existence awareness. You see this order? It includes the whole thing. Therefore, it doesn't discount the forms, because we said very nicely, wherever there is form, that's exactly where the truth of that form is. So it's an understanding. So I'm not excluding mithya. I'm fully accounting mithya because it has a relative reality. And at the same time, through my cognitive understanding, I understand it has no existence apart from intelligence. And the truth of intelligence is Drig. The whole thing is included at once.
So you're connecting with the thread along with beads.
Yeah, you bring in the whole thing in, the beads and the thread. And of course, some people will have more reverence, more emotional expression of this intelligence. As I said, this is a personal thing. Some people may be a little bit kind of less, into that. So your devotion is your devotion. Your devotion is not someone else's devotion. Someone may have the need for japa, for kirtanam. This is okay. As long as I understand that what I'm worshiping is not different from myself, then it's okay. Any kind of worship is totally okay. That's why it's okay. Worshipping an object, an idol, it doesn't contradict the reality. Oh, you're teaching here all that is here is one, and you're still prostrating to idols and things. Where's the contradiction? The table, does the table contradict the wood? Does the wood contradict the table? No. Through my cognitive understanding, I see that many do not contradict the one, nor the one does contradict the many, because it's a satya-mithya relationship. Wherever there is a form, that's exactly where the truth of that form lies. So if I understand that, then I can, by definition, worship whatever I want.
So you could worship a rock, a tree, a river.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's why, in the Vedic tradition, it wasn't just this, I'm just eating food. There's a reverence to the food, reverence to the mountain, reverence to the Ganga, reverence to the teachers, reverence to the students, reverence to anything. The rock becomes, an object of worship. Yeah, it's all a manifestation of Ishvara. And some people will connect more to one form than another. That's why we have so many idols in this tradition. And we will speak about these idols tomorrow. How this intelligence manifests, and why do we have Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Durga, right, Lakshmi, Saraswati? Why do we have this? And what is the meaning of all of this in reference to Ishvara? So we will speak of this tomorrow. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.